History is usually written by the victors, the powerful, the kings and conquerors who shape empires. Their names are carved into stone, their stories echo through the ages. But what if the greatest king in a nation's history? What if his entire family line, his very existence, hinged on the quiet decision of a single, broke, foreign widow? This is the story of a choice that should have been a footnote, a forgotten moment of grief on a dusty road. Instead, it was an act of loyalty so powerful it kicked off a chain of events that would define a nation, build a throne, and create the lineage of one of history's most famous kings. This is the story of Ruth, the quiet heroine who changed absolutely everything. Our story begins in one of the darkest periods in ancient Israel's history, the time of the Judges. It was a brutal era of chaos and moral confusion, summed up as a time when everyone did what was right in their own eyes. On top of all that, a famine gripped the land, forcing people into impossible choices. For one family from Bethlehem, the choice was to leave. A man named Elimelech, his wife Naomi, and their 2 sons packed up and went to the neighboring country of Moab just to survive. Now Moab was enemy territory with foreign gods and a long history of bad blood with Israel. But desperation makes for strange alliances. They figured it was a temporary fix. They couldn't have been more wrong. The land of Moab wasn't a sanctuary. It was a place of heartbreaking loss. First, Elimelech died, leaving Naomi a widow in a foreign land. Her 2 sons married Moabite women Orpah and Ruth, a sign they were trying to build a new life. But tragedy wasn't finished. After about 10 years, both of Naomi's sons also died. This left 3 women, all widows, connected by grief but separated by culture. Naomi, an Israelite, now without a husband or children. Orpah and Ruth, 2 Moabite women with no children to carry on their husbands' names. In the ancient world, their situation was a complete disaster. They were cut off from protection, money, and any social standing. Eventually, word reached Naomi that the famine in Judah had ended. With nothing left for her in Moab, she decided to go home to Bethlehem. She urged her 2 daughters-in-law to return to their own families and find new husbands. It was practical, painful advice. "Go back," she cried. "Life is much more bitter for me than for you because the Lord's hand has turned against me." Crying, Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye and turned back. It was the sensible choice. But Ruth refused. She clung to the grieving older woman and made one of the most powerful declarations of loyalty ever recorded. "Don't ask me to leave you," Ruth said. "Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me." This was a radical, life-altering commitment. Ruth was abandoning her country, her culture, and her family for a mother-in-law who felt she had nothing left to give. It was an act of selfless love, of deep, loyal kindness. This single decision was the spark that ignited a story far bigger than she could have ever imagined. When Naomi and Ruth arrived in Bethlehem, they caused a stir. The town was buzzing, but Naomi was a shadow of her former self. "Don't call me Naomi," she told them, her voice filled with pain. "Call me Mara because the Almighty has made my life very bitter. Naomi means pleasant, Mara means bitter." She felt empty and she blamed God. They had nothing. But Ruth, with humility and grit, decided to provide for them. She told Naomi she would go to the fields and glean the ancient practice of gathering leftover grain, a provision for the poor and foreigners. It was backbreaking, vulnerable work. As fate would have it, the field she happened to choose belonged to a man named Boaz, a wealthy, respected landowner who was also a relative of Naomi's dead husband. Boaz noticed her immediately. He'd already heard the stories of her loyalty to Naomi. "May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel," he told her, "under whose wings you have come to take refuge." He showed her incredible kindness, offering food, water, and his personal protection. He even told his men to intentionally leave extra grain behind for her. Ruth returned to Naomi that evening with more food than she could have hoped for and a heart full of gratitude. When Naomi heard the man's name was Boaz, the first spark of hope she'd felt in years ignited. This wasn't just a random man. He was a kinsman-redeemer. In Israelite society, this was a close male relative who had a duty to protect the family's interests, which could include buying back family land and marrying a widow to continue the family line. Suddenly, Naomi the bitter was replaced by Naomi the strategist. She saw a path forward. She devised a bold, even shocking plan. She told Ruth to wash up, put on her best clothes, and go to the threshing floor where Boaz would be celebrating the harvest. She was to wait until he was asleep, and then she was to go to him, uncover his feet, and lie down. This was a culturally risky move that could have been completely misinterpreted and destroyed her reputation. But Ruth, trusting Naomi, simply said, "I will do everything you say." In the middle of the night, Boaz woke with a start to find a woman at his feet. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am your servant Ruth," she whispered. "Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a kinsman-redeemer." This wasn't a seductive act. It was a formal public request for marriage and protection. Boaz was stunned by her incredible character. He praised her loyalty, noting that she hadn't chased after younger or richer men, but chose to honor her late husband's family. But there was a catch. Boaz was a kinsman-redeemer, but not the closest one. Another man had the first right. Boaz promised to resolve the matter publicly the next morning. As the sun came up, Ruth's future and the future of a royal dynasty hung in the balance. This story is such a powerful reminder of how small acts of faith and loyalty can have a massive world-changing ripple effect. If you're finding this story as incredible as I do, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our next dive into the stories that shaped our world. This story's climax doesn't happen in the dark, but in broad daylight at the city gate, the ancient equivalent of a courthouse. Boaz gathered 10 elders and waited for the other kinsman-redeemer. He laid out the case. Naomi was selling her husband's land, and this man had the first right to buy it. The man quickly agreed. It sounded like a good deal. But then Boaz dropped the other shoe. "On the day you buy the land," Boaz announced, "you also acquire Ruth the Moabite, the dead man's widow, to maintain the name of the dead with his property." Suddenly, this wasn't just about land. Marrying Ruth, a foreigner, and raising an heir for another man's family could endanger his own inheritance. "I can't redeem it," the man declared. "I might ruin my own estate." "You take my right." He sealed the deal by taking off his sandal and giving it to Boaz, the traditional gesture for a binding agreement. In that moment, Boaz publicly declared he had bought all the family property and had taken Ruth the Moabite as his wife. The crowd erupted in blessings, praying she would be like Rachel and Leah, the matriarchs who built Israel. The resolution was swift and joyful. Boaz married Ruth. The poverty and sorrow that had defined her and Naomi's lives were transformed. Soon they were blessed with a son named Obed. In a beautiful twist that brought Naomi's story full circle, the townswomen said to her, "A son has been born to Naomi." Her emptiness was finally filled. The story could have ended there, a lovely tale of loss, loyalty, and redemption. But the final verses revealed the breathtaking scale of what Ruth's choice set in motion. Boaz was the father of Obed. Obed was the father of Jesse, and Jesse was the father of David. King David, the giant slayer, the poet warrior, Israel's greatest king. His very existence depended on this Moabite woman, an outsider from an enemy nation. Her inclusion in the royal line shows a profound truth. God's plan of redemption is bigger than anyone expects, valuing faithfulness over origin. And the line doesn't stop there. Centuries later, the Gospel of Matthew opens with its own genealogy tracing the lineage of the Messiah. And right there, named among the ancestors of Jesus, is Ruth, one of only a handful of women mentioned by name, proof of her critical role in a story far greater than she could have ever known. From a dusty road in Moab to the steps of her royal throne, Ruth's journey is a testament to the power of a single faithful choice. She wasn't a queen, a prophet, or a warrior. She was a widow, a foreigner, an outsider. But her quiet heroism, a loyalty that wouldn't break, and a faith that risked everything, genuinely changed the world. Her story shows us that history isn't just shaped by the loud and the powerful. Sometimes the biggest changes are started by the quiet heroes, whose simple acts of love and courage echo into eternity.